The ship New Seoul moved slowly through space toward the green planet below. Ambassador Hyunwoo Park stood at the large window, watching the world grow bigger as they got closer. His hands were sweaty, and his heart beat fast. This was the day humanity had dreamed about for hundreds of years. First contact with aliens. "Sir, we're getting another message from the planet," said Young-Soo Choi from his seat at the communications desk. The young man's voice was excited but professional. "They're still welcoming us in perfect Korean. I don't understand how they learned our language so fast." Hyunwoo turned away from the window. Behind him, the planet Kepler 442b looked like a blue and green jewel against the black of space. It was beautiful, with white clouds and vast oceans, the perfect place for life to grow. "Play the message," Hyunwoo said, straightening his formal diplomatic uniform. The voice that came through the speakers was strange but friendly. It spoke Korean with a musical quality that made it sound almost like singing. "Welcome, humans of Earth. We are the Villani. We have waited long to meet you. Our ships will guide you to the landing place in our great city. We wish to share knowledge and friendship with you." Jimin Lee looked up from her science station. The woman's eyes were bright with curiosity. "Ambassador, their city readings are incredible. The energy patterns suggest technology far beyond anything we have on Earth. But they're not using it as weapons. All the energy seems to be for peaceful purposes: lights, transportation, communication." Tae-ho Kim, the security chief, stood near the back of the bridge. He was a quiet man who always watched everything carefully. "That could be good or bad," he said in a low voice. "Maybe they don't need weapons because they're so advanced, or maybe they hide them well." "Tae-ho," Hyunwoo said with a small smile, "today we think positive thoughts. This is history being made." The ship shook gently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Through the windows, they could see the alien city growing larger below them. It was nothing like human cities. Instead of square buildings, there were tall crystal towers that seemed to grow from the ground like trees. They sparkled in the sunlight, sending rainbows of light in all directions. "Look at that," whispered Yoonji Han, the medical officer. She was pressed against another window, staring down at the city. "It's like a fairy tale." As the New Seoul landed in a circular area surrounded by the crystal towers, they could see figures moving toward them. The aliens were tall and thin, with smooth, pale skin that had a slight blue color. They wore flowing robes that seemed to be made of light itself, changing colors as they moved. "Final equipment check," Hyunwoo announced. "Remember, we represent all of humanity today. We must show them that we are peaceful, intelligent, and worthy of friendship." Young-Soo checked his translation devices one more time. Jimin gathered her scientific instruments. Yoonji prepared her medical scanners to make sure the air outside would be safe to breathe. Tae-ho adjusted his sidearm, a simple energy weapon that he hoped he would never need to use. The main door of the ship opened with a soft hiss. The air that came in was warm and sweet, filled with the smell of flowers they had never experienced before. Hyunwoo took a deep breath and stepped outside, followed by his team. A group of Villani waited for them. The leader was taller than the others, with intricate patterns of silver light moving across his blue skin. When he spoke, his voice was the same musical sound they had heard on the radio. "Welcome, Ambassador Hyunwoo Park of Earth. I am High Counselor Thexera of the Villani Empire. We greet you with joy and hope." Hyunwoo bowed deeply, as was proper in human diplomacy. "Thank you, High Counselor. We are honored to meet you and your people. We come in peace, hoping to learn from each other." Thexera's face changed in what might have been a smile. "Peace is the foundation of all civilization. Come, we will show you our city and speak of the future." As they walked through the Crystal City, Hyunwoo was amazed by everything he saw. The Villani had created a place where technology and nature lived together perfectly. Flowers grew on the sides of buildings. Small streams of clear water ran down paths between the towers. The air was clean and fresh. "Your city is beautiful," Jimin said to one of the Villani guides. "How do you make the crystals grow this way?" "We do not make them grow," the alien replied. "We ask them to grow. We speak to the materials, and they respond to our wishes. It is harmony between mind and matter. Other Vellani moved around them, all seeming curious but respectful. Some stopped to look at the humans with large, gentle eyes. Children, if that's what they were, peeked out from behind adults, making soft musical sounds that might have been laughter. They seemed genuinely peaceful, Yunji said quietly to Hyunwoo as they walked. My medical scans show no hidden weapons, no signs of aggression. Their body language suggests openness and friendliness. Taeho walked a little behind the group, his trained eyes watching everything. Too peaceful, maybe, he said softly. In my experience, people who never need to fight usually have a very good reason why nobody wants to fight them. They reached the center of the city, where the largest crystal tower stretched high into the sky. Inside, the walls glowed with soft light, and the floor felt warm under their feet. Thexara led them to a round room where other Vellani waited. These are the members of our High Council, Thexara explained. We wish to know about your people, your world, your dreams for the future. For the next several hours, they talked. The Vellani asked many questions about Earth, about human history, about their technology and culture. In return, they shared stories of their own empire, which stretched across many star systems. We have guided the growth of civilization in this region of space for over 3,000 of your years, one council member explained. We have helped many species find peace and prosperity. We call it the Harmony Collective, a union of worlds working together for the good of all. Young Soo was busy recording everything, his equipment translating between Korean and the musical Vellani language. This is incredible, he whispered to Jimin. They're offering us membership in a galactic civilization. Humanity's greatest dream is coming true. Jimin nodded, but something in the back of her mind felt unsure. The other species they mentioned, she said carefully to Thexara. Could we meet some of them? We would like to learn from their experiences joining your collective. Of course, Thexara replied. In time, you will meet all our partners. But first, we must establish trust between our peoples. Trust takes time to build, but it lasts forever once created. As the day continued, the humans were shown more of the city. They saw Vellani art, music, and technology. Everything was impressive, beautiful, and peaceful. The Vellani seemed genuinely interested in human culture and excited about the possibility of friendship. When evening came, they gathered in a great hall where hundreds of Vellani had come to see the humans. The ceremony was beautiful, with lights, dancing in the air, and music that touched the heart. Thexara presented Hyunwoo with a crystal that glowed with inner light. This is a symbol of welcome, Thexara said. It represents our hope that humans and Vellani will walk together into a bright future. Hyunwoo accepted the gift with both hands, feeling its warm weight. We are honored by your friendship. On behalf of all humanity, I accept this gift and offer our own friendship in return. As the ceremony ended and they returned to their ship for the night, Hyunwoo felt hopeful about the future. First contact had gone better than anyone on Earth had dared to hope. The Vellani seemed to be exactly what humanity needed, wise teachers who could guide them into the larger universe. What do you think? He asked his team as they sat in the ship's common room, sharing a meal and discussing the day. They're impressive, Jimin said. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but they use it for creation, not destruction. I've never seen anything like their crystal growing techniques. They seem honest, Yunji added. My medical equipment detected no signs of deception in their body language or vocal patterns. If they're lying about anything, they're better at it than my instruments can detect. Young-soo nodded enthusiastically. The translation matrices they provided work perfectly. They've clearly studied our languages and cultures extensively. They knew exactly how to approach us. Only Taeho seemed less excited. That's what worries me, he said quietly. How did they know so much about us? We've only been broadcasting radio signals into space for about 100 years. How long have they been watching us? Hyunwoo considered this. Maybe that's how they operate. They study new species carefully before making contact. It shows wisdom and patience. Maybe, Taeho replied. Or maybe it shows something else. That night, as Hyunwoo lay in his bunk looking out at the crystal city glowing in the darkness, He thought about the future. Tomorrow they would begin formal negotiations about humanity joining the Harmony Collective. It seemed like the best possible outcome for first contact. He held the crystal gift up to the light. It was beautiful, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The Vallani had seemed so welcoming, so eager to share their knowledge and wisdom. Humanity would learn from them and grow into something better. As he drifted off to sleep, Hyun-woo smiled. History would remember this day as the beginning of humanity's golden age among the stars. 3 months had passed since the humans first landed on the Vallani world. The new soul now sat permanently in the Crystal City's landing area, serving as humanity's embassy while formal negotiations continued. Every day brought new wonders and new promises of the bright future awaiting humanity in the Harmony Collective. Ambassador Hyun-woo Park walked through the halls of the Vallani Council building, heading to another day of talks. The crystal walls around him pulsed with gentle light, and he could hear the musical sounds of Vallani conversation echoing from other rooms. He had grown to love this place and these people over the past months. "Good morning, Ambassador," called Sora-yoon as she hurried to catch up with him. The anthropologist had arrived on the second supply ship from Earth, along with several other specialists. Her job was to study Vallani society and help humanity understand how to fit into their civilization. "Good morning, Sora," Hyun-woo replied. "How are your cultural studies going?" Sora's face showed a mix of excitement and confusion. "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. I've been visiting the districts where other collective species live, and I'm seeing some interesting patterns." They walked together toward the council chambers. "What kind of patterns?" "Well," Sora said carefully, "the other species seem very content, happy even, but also very similar to each other now. The Kethani, who joined the collective 50 years ago, have almost the same culture as the Veltar, who joined 200 years ago. Their art, their music, their social structures, they're all becoming very much like the Vallani way of doing things." Hyun-woo nodded. "That makes sense. When different cultures come together, they naturally influence each other. It's called cultural convergence." "Yes, but—" Sora hesitated. "It seems to be mostly one-way convergence. The other species adopt Vallani customs, Vallani values, even Vallani ways of thinking. But I haven't seen much Vallani culture that shows influence from their partners." Before Hyun-woo could respond, they reached the council chambers. High Counselor Thexara was waiting for them with his usual warm greeting. "Ambassador Park, Scholar Yoon, welcome. Today we will discuss the educational exchanges between our worlds. We are eager to share our knowledge with your people." As the meeting began, Hyun-woo pushed Sora's concerns to the back of his mind. The Vallani were offering humanity access to technologies that would solve most of Earth's problems: clean energy, space travel, medical advances that could extend human life by centuries. How could he question such generosity? Meanwhile, in the lower levels of the Crystal City, Jimin Lee was having her own troubling discoveries. She had been working with Jae-sung Lim, an engineer who had arrived with the second wave of humans, to understand Vallani technology. They were in a laboratory filled with strange crystal devices that hummed with power. "Look at these energy readings," Jimin said, pointing to her instruments. "The Vallani say this is a simple communication device used by the Kethani. But the power output is enormous, far more than needed for communication." Jae-sung frowned at the data. "What else could it be for?" "I'm not sure. But I've been analyzing the brain scans Yoon-ji took of the other species. There are some unusual patterns in their neural activity. It's almost like they're receiving some kind of background signal all the time." "A signal from what?" "From devices like this one," Jimin said quietly. "Jae-sung, I think these aren't just communication tools. I think they might be influencing the way these people think." In another part of the city, Young-soo Choi was making his own disturbing discovery. As communications specialist, he monitored all transmissions between the human ship and the various Vallani facilities. Most were routine diplomatic messages, but he had learned to recognize patterns in the data streams. "Hyojin, you need to see this," he said to the woman sitting at the next console. Hyojin Kang had arrived quietly on the third supply ship, officially listed as a trade specialist. But Young-soo had quickly figured out she was really an intelligence analyst sent by Earth's security services. "What is it?" Hyojin asked, moving to look at his screen. I've been monitoring the quantum communication channels the Villani use to talk to other worlds in their collective. Most of it is encrypted, but I've learned to recognize certain patterns. Look at this transmission that went out yesterday. The screen showed a complex data pattern. To most people, it would look like meaningless noise. But Young-Soo had spent months learning to read Villani communication protocols. This message went to the Kethani homeworld, he explained. But here's the strange part. It's not in Kethani language. It's in Villani. And these symbols here, I've seen them before in messages about resource allocation and population management. Hyojin studied the data carefully. What do you think it means? I think it means the Kethani aren't really running their own world anymore. I think the Villani are giving them orders, and they're following them without question. That evening, the human team gathered in the new Seoul for their regular briefing. Hyun-woo looked around the table at his colleagues, noticing that several of them seemed worried about something. All right, everyone, he began. Let's share what we've learned today. The Villani have made another generous offer. They want to provide Earth with clean fusion technology that could power our entire planet. That's wonderful news, said Yoon-ji. Though I do have some medical concerns to report, I've been examining the other collective species and I'm finding some unusual brain chemistry patterns. What kind of patterns? Tae-ho asked. The security. Chief had been quiet lately, but Hyun-woo could see he was always watching and thinking. Well, their brains show signs of constant low-level neurological activity in areas associated with suggestion and compliance. It's almost like they're in a permanent state of mild hypnosis. That could be natural for their species, Hyun-woo suggested. It could be, Yoon-ji agreed. But it's the same pattern in all of them, Kethani, Veltar, Mordun. Different species, different evolutionary backgrounds, but identical brain patterns, Jimin spoke up. That matches what Jae-sung and I found. The technology the other species use seems designed to emit specific frequencies that could affect neural activity. Young-Soo added his information about the intercepted communications. As he explained what he had discovered, Hyun-woo felt a cold feeling growing in his stomach. What are you all suggesting? He asked, though he was beginning to fear the answer. Yejin cleared her throat. Ambassador, I think it's time I told you why I'm really here. Earth's intelligence services have been monitoring deep space communications for months. We've detected signals from this region that suggest the Villani Empire operates very differently than they've told us. She activated a holographic display showing a map of local space. The Harmony Collective isn't a partnership of equals. It's an empire where the Villani control everything. The other species are essentially slaves, though they don't seem to realize it. That's impossible, Hyun-woo said firmly. I've spoken with members of the other species. They seem happy and free. Do they? Tae-ho asked quietly. Or do they seem content? There's a difference. Happy people ask questions, make complaints, want changes. Content people just accept whatever they're told. So-ra nodded. That's exactly what I've been noticing. The other species are perfectly content with everything. They never argue with Villani decisions. They never suggest improvements or alternatives. They just agree and obey. But they don't look like prisoners, Hyun-woo protested. The most effective prisons are the ones where the prisoners don't know they're imprisoned, Hyojin said. The Villani have perfected a form of cultural domination that makes conquest unnecessary. They convince other species to surrender their independence willingly. Hyun-woo stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the beautiful crystal city. Everything he had believed about the Villani was being challenged. These people had been so kind, so welcoming. They had offered humanity everything they had ever dreamed of. Even if what you're saying is true, he said slowly, maybe it's not entirely bad. The other species seem healthy and happy. They have peace, prosperity, long lives. Maybe giving up some independence is worth it for that kind of security. Ambassador, Tae-ho said, standing up as well. May I ask you something? How do you feel when you think about questioning the Villani, about refusing their offers? Hyun-woo considered the question. The truth was, the idea of disappointing the Villani made him feel anxious and uncomfortable. The thought of humanity rejecting their friendship seemed almost impossible to consider. I see, Tae-ho said, watching Hyun-woo's face. Sir, how long have you been drinking the Villani beverages they provide? Eating their food? Breathing their air in the council chambers? The implications hit Hyun-woo like a physical blow. You think they're drugging us? I think they're very good at what they do, Yunji said gently. And what they do is make other species want to join them. The neural suppressants I detected in your blood samples aren't harmful. They just make you more agreeable, more trusting, less likely to ask difficult questions. Young-Soo had been monitoring communications during their conversation. Suddenly his equipment started beeping urgently. Ambassador, we have a problem. I'm detecting a massive Vellani fleet moving toward Earth. Hundreds of ships. That can't be right, Hyun-woo said. They promised to WW. 6 months had passed since humanity's first contact with the Vellani, and today was supposed to be a celebration. The Crystal City was decorated with lights and flowers. Thousands of Vellani had gathered in the central plaza, along with representatives from all the species in the Harmony Collective. It was meant to be a festival of unity and friendship. Ambassador Hyun-woo Park stood on a raised platform next to High Counselor Thexara, watching the crowds below. The past 3 months had been difficult. His team's discoveries about the true nature of the Vellani Empire had created doubt and fear among the humans. But today, Thexara had promised to address all their concerns and reveal the full truth about humanity's future. Are you ready, my friend? Thexara asked, his musical voice carrying the same warmth it always had. I suppose so, Hyun-woo replied. Despite everything his team had discovered, he still found it hard to believe that the Vellani meant harm. They had been nothing but kind and generous. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation for everything. Below, them in the crowd, the other members of the human delegation watched nervously. Jimin Lee stood with her scientific instruments, trying to get readings on the energy fields that seemed to be building around the plaza. Tae-ho Kim had his hand near his weapon, though he tried to look relaxed. Young-Soo Choi was monitoring communications, looking for any sign of the Vellani fleet that was reportedly heading toward Earth. Citizens of the Harmony Collective, Thexara, began, his voice somehow carrying clearly to every corner of the plaza without any visible amplification. Today, we welcome our newest partners into our great family. The crowd cheered, a mix of musical Vellani voices and the different sounds made by the other species. But as Jimin listened carefully, she noticed something strange. All the non-Vellani voices sounded remarkably similar, despite coming from different species with different vocal structures. For 6 months, we have shared knowledge and friendship with the humans of Earth, Thexara continued. We have shown them the peace and prosperity that comes from joining our collective. Now it is time to take the final step. Hyun-woo felt a strange tingling sensation as Thexara spoke. The words seemed to flow over him like warm water, making him feel calm and agreeable. Part of his mind recognized this feeling from Yunji's warnings about neural suppressants, but it was hard to care about that when everything felt so peaceful. The Dome. Humans have agreed to full integration into the Harmony Collective, Thexara announced. Their world will be guided by our wisdom. Their people will benefit from our protection. Their independence will be transformed into something greater. Unity with all civilized species. The crowd erupted in celebration, but on the platform, Hyun-woo's mind suddenly snapped into focus. Wait, he said, turning to Thexara. I never agreed to that. We were still negotiating terms. Thexara's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Ambassador Park, surely you understand that this is what is best for your species. You have seen how well our other partners have flourished under our guidance. But we haven't made any final decisions yet, Hyun-woo insisted, his voice getting louder. Humanity needs to vote on this. Our leaders on Earth need to approve any agreements. That will not be necessary, Thexara said calmly. We have already made contact with your world's governments. They have been informed that humanity is now part of the Harmony Collective. Down in the crowd, Tae-ho had heard enough. He activated his communicator and spoke quietly to his team. Something's wrong up there. Be ready for anything. Young-Soo's equipment suddenly came alive with signals. Tae-ho, I'm detecting massive energy buildups around the plaza. And the fleet heading to Earth, they're not diplomats. Those are warships. How many? Tae-ho asked, while keeping his eyes on the platform where Hyun-woo was starting to look angry. 300 vessels at least. They'll reach Earth in 18 hours. On the platform, Hyun-woo was no longer feeling calm and peaceful. High Counselor, you cannot speak for humanity without our consent. We are a free people, and we make our own decisions. Freedom is an illusion, Thexara replied, his musical voice now carrying a harder edge. True happiness comes from knowing your place in the greater order. Your people will understand this in time, and if we refuse, for the first time since they had met, Thexara smiled in a way that showed no warmth at all. Refusal is not possible. It would be unnatural. No species refuses the gift we offer. Suddenly, the air around the plaza began to shimmer. Villani, ships became visible overhead, their cloaking devices deactivating. They had been there all along, hidden and waiting. The humans were surrounded. This is how it works, Thexara explained to Hyunwoo, as if he were teaching a child. First, we make contact peacefully. We show you our culture, our technology, our prosperity. We make you want to join us willingly. Most species accept immediately. More ships appeared in the sky. Hundreds of them, all armed and ready. The other species in the crowd below didn't seem alarmed. They watched with the same peaceful expressions they always wore. But if a species hesitates, Thexara continued, we help them understand the benefits of cooperation. We demonstrate that resistance is futile and unnecessary. We show them that acceptance brings peace, while refusal brings only pain. Hyunwoo felt his heart racing. You're threatening us. We are offering you a choice, Thexara corrected. Accept integration willingly, and your people will be treated as honored partners. Continue to resist, and we will be forced to use more direct methods to help you see reason. In the crowd below, chaos was starting to break out among the humans. Do-hyun Bae, a young cultural attaché who had always been enthusiastic about Villani friendship, suddenly looked confused and frightened. I don't understand, Do-hyun said to Sora-yoon, who was standing nearby. The counselor said this was what humanity wanted. He said our leaders had agreed. Our leaders couldn't have agreed, Sora replied grimly. They don't even know the full situation yet. We've been cut off from Earth for weeks. Minho Song, the chief engineer, was frantically working on his communication equipment. I can't get through to Earth, he reported to the others. All transmissions are being blocked. Tae-ho made a decision. All humans return to the ship immediately. This is not a request. But as the humans tried to leave the plaza, they found their way blocked by Villani security forces. The aliens were still polite, still smiling, but they were clearly not going to let the humans go. Please remain calm, one of the Villani guards said in perfect Korean. This celebration is for your benefit. It would be rude to leave early. On the platform, Hyunwoo was still arguing with Thexara. You can't force an entire species into slavery. Slavery? Thexara looked genuinely puzzled. Look around you, Ambassador. Do our partners look like slaves? Hyunwoo looked down at the crowd. The Cathani, Veltar, and other non-Villani species were all smiling and nodding approvingly at everything Thexara said. They seemed perfectly happy with the situation. They look drugged, Hyunwoo said. They look peaceful, Thexara corrected. They have been freed from the burden of making difficult decisions. They no longer need to worry about war, poverty, or conflict. We handle all such matters for them. That's not freedom. That's control. Freedom to make wrong choices is not a gift, Thexara explained patiently. Freedom to suffer is not a blessing. We offer something better. Freedom from want, freedom from fear, freedom from the mistakes that come from ignorance. Jimin had been scanning the area with her instruments throughout the conversation. Now she made a disturbing discovery. Hyunwoo, she called up to the platform. The neural suppression field is getting stronger. Whatever they're using to keep the other species compliant, they're increasing the power. Yoonji, who had been quietly monitoring everyone's vital signs, suddenly looked alarmed. It's affecting us too. Our brain activity is being altered. We need to get away from here now. But there was nowhere to go. The Villani ships overhead had weapons trained on the human ship. The guards around the plaza had formed a complete circle. The humans were trapped in a beautiful crystal cage. Why? Hyunwoo asked Thexara desperately. Why do this? You could have simply asked for our friendship. Many humans would have accepted willingly. Some would have, Thexara agreed. But not all. There would have been debates, arguments, resistance. Some humans would have chosen to remain isolated rather than join galactic civilization. This would have been wasteful and sad. So you decided for us. We decided correctly for you. In time, all humans will thank us for this gift. Your children will grow up in a galaxy of peace and prosperity. They will never know war, hunger, or loneliness. They'll also never know freedom. Thexara's expression became almost sad. Freedom is overrated, Ambassador. It causes suffering. It leads to conflict. It makes people unhappy with their lives. We offer something better: purpose, belonging, peace. Young Su had been working frantically on his communication equipment. Suddenly, he managed to break through the jamming for just a few seconds. Earth Command, this is the new Soul, he broadcast quickly. The Volani are not peaceful. They are invaders. Do not trust them. Do not... The transmission cut off as Volani technology overwhelmed his equipment, but those few seconds might have been enough to warn Earth that the approaching fleet was hostile. That was unnecessary. 2 years had passed since the Volani fleet reached Earth. The conquest had been swift and almost bloodless. Faced with technology centuries ahead of their own, Earth's governments had surrendered after only token resistance. Most humans now lived under what the Volani called protective guidance, believing they had joined a peaceful galactic civilization. Admiral Seok-Jin Ryu floated in the zero gravity of his command center deep inside an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt. Around him, holographic displays showed the status of humanity's hidden fleet, 300 ships of various sizes, all built in secret over the past 24 months using stolen Volani technology and human ingenuity. Admiral, called Captain Mi-Young Jang from her position at the tactical station. We're receiving another transmission from the Resistance. Cells on Earth. The Volani are accelerating their integration program. Seok-Jin pushed himself over to her station, his weathered face grim. What's the latest? They're starting to relocate human populations to what they call optimal development centers, Mi-Young reported. According to our sources, these are essentially re-education camps designed to break down human culture and replace it with Volani values. How many people have been moved so far? Nearly 50 million, mostly from the major cities. The Volani are telling them it's for their own safety and prosperity. Most humans are going willingly. Seok-Jin closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command. Before the invasion, he had been just another admiral in Earth's space navy. Now he commanded the only free human military force in the galaxy, hidden in the dark spaces between worlds. Any word from Ambassador Park and his team? Still being held on the Volani homeworld, replied Commander Woo-Jin Park from across the room. The special operations leader was Hyun-Woo's younger brother, and his hatred for the Volani burned bright and cold. Our intelligence suggests they're being used as symbols of human cooperation. They appear at ceremonies and make speeches about how wonderful life is under Volani guidance. Forced speeches? Most likely. Dr. Sang-Mi-Oh's analysis of their brain scans suggests heavy neural conditioning. They probably believe what they're saying, at least while they're saying it. Dr. Sang-Mi-Oh looked up from her workstation, where she was reviewing the latest weapon designs. The good news is that we finally cracked their neural suppression technology. The bad news is that prolonged exposure causes permanent changes to brain chemistry. The longer someone is under Volani control, the harder it becomes to break free. Pilot Dong-Hwan Ko floated near the hangar entrance, checking his flight suit. How long before we're ready to move against them? Soon, Seok-Jin said. But we only get one chance at this. If we fail, humanity remains enslaved forever. If we succeed too early, before we're fully prepared, the result is the same. The Hidden Fleet had been humanity's last, desperate gamble. As the Volani ships approached Earth 2 years ago, a few far-sighted leaders had activated deep space protocols that most people didn't even know existed. Secret facilities in asteroid belts and hidden moons had begun construction on a fleet, designed for one purpose: to hit back when the time was right. Show me the ship status, Seok-Jin ordered. The holographic display changed to show their fleet. Unlike the graceful artistic designs favored by the Volani, human warships were ugly, practical things built for maximum damage. The centerpiece was the Indomitable, a massive battleship armed with weapons that would horrify civilized species. All ships report ready for combat, Mi-Young said. The new kinetic weapons have been tested and are functioning perfectly. The Volani won't know what hit them. The kinetic weapons were humanity's secret advantage. While the Volani relied on energy-based technology that could be shielded against, humans had perfected the art of throwing very heavy objects very fast. Railguns, mass drivers, and fusion-powered missiles designed to punch through any defense. And keep going. What about the stealth systems? Functional, but untested in real combat, reported Chief Engineer Han Sol-Yu from his station. We've used captured Volani sensor technology to design stealth fields they shouldn't be able to detect. But we won't know for sure until we try. Seok Jin nodded. The stealth technology was based on a simple principle. The Volani were so advanced that they had become predictable. Their sensors looked for certain types of energy signatures and technology patterns. Human ships, built with deliberately primitive and chaotic systems, simply didn't register as threats. Any new intelligence from our people inside Volani space? Wu Jin activated another display. Insu Huang has managed to maintain contact with Ambassador Park. The information flow is slow and dangerous, but we're getting reports on Volani fleet positions and defensive capabilities. Insu Huang had been one of the maintenance workers on the original diplomatic mission. When the Volani revealed their true nature, he had managed to avoid the neural conditioning and had spent 2 years carefully building a resistance network. His reports were the only reliable intelligence they had about conditions on the Volani homeworld. The Volani are supremely confident, Wu Jin continued. They believe humans are just like every other species they've conquered, too weak and disorganized to mount any serious resistance. They've never faced a species that prepared for war before surrendering. That's going to be their mistake, Mi Young said with grim satisfaction. Dr. Sang Mi had been working on more than just weapons technology. Admiral, I finished the analysis of Volani physiology. They're physically weaker than humans, adapted for their peaceful, controlled environment. More importantly, their technology is designed around the assumption that conflicts will be resolved through negotiation or neural suppression. They don't have much experience with actual warfare. What about their military? They have one, but it's mostly for show and for dealing with primitive species that resist integration. Against an enemy with comparable technology and real military tactics, they're poorly prepared. Dong Huan laughed harshly. They're about to get a very expensive education in human military doctrine. Seok Jin studied the tactical displays showing Volani positions throughout the galaxy. How many species are we talking about liberating? 47 confirmed members of the Harmony Collective, Mi Young reported. Some have been under Volani control for over 1,000 years. They probably don't even remember what freedom was. Like. That could be a problem, Wu Jin noted. If we break Volani control too quickly, some species might not be able to handle sudden independence. 1,000 years of having all decisions made for you doesn't prepare you for self-governance. We'll deal with that when we come to it, Seok Jin decided. Right now, our priority is breaking the Volani hold on human space and rescuing our people. The command center's communication system activated, showing the face of Colonel Jin Wu, on from the Retribution, one of their heavy cruisers positioned near Jupiter. Admiral, we're detecting increased Volani patrol activity in the inner solar system. It looks like they're getting ready for something big. Any idea what? Intelligence suggests they're planning a major celebration on Earth. Something about the 2nd anniversary of human integration into the collective. They're bringing in ships from across their empire. Seok Jin exchanged glances with his senior staff. How many ships? At least 1,000, sir. Maybe more. It looks like they want to make this a really impressive show. Mi Young's eyes lit up with tactical possibilities. Admiral, if they're concentrating their forces on Earth for a celebration, then they're giving us exactly the opportunity we've been waiting for, Seok Jin finished. One decisive strike when they least expect it. It's risky, Wu Jin pointed out. If we attack during a celebration on Earth, there could be massive civilian casualties. And if we don't attack, humanity remains enslaved forever, Seok Jin countered. Besides, the Volani chose to hold their celebration on our world. That makes it a legitimate military target. Dr. Sang-Mi was already running calculations. If we time it right, we can minimize civilian exposure. The Volani will want to show off for the other collective species. They'll concentrate their forces in orbit and in the major cities where they've set up their integration centers. How long do we have to prepare? 3 weeks, Colonel Jinwoo reported. The celebration is scheduled to coincide with the anniversary of Earth's surrender. Siok Jin made his decision. Signal all ships. Operation Liberation begins now. We have 3 weeks to get everyone into position. As his staff began implementing the attack plan, Siok Jin thought about the humans still trapped on Earth and the wee Vellani homeworld. Ambassador Hyun-woo and his team had sacrificed their freedom to give humanity this chance. Millions of humans on Earth believed they were living in paradise, while their minds were slowly being reshaped. The Vellani genuinely believed they were doing good. They thought they were saving humanity from the chaos and suffering of freedom. In their minds, they were benevolent guardians protecting childlike species from their own destructive impulses. They were about to learn that some species preferred chaos and suffering to peaceful slavery. They were about to discover that humanity had not forgotten how to fight, had not surrendered their capacity for violence, had not given up their stubborn refusal to be controlled. "Admiral," Mi-young said quietly, "what if we're wrong? What if the Vellani—" The celebration was magnificent. Above Earth, over 1,000 Vellani ships hung in perfect formation, their crystal hulls catching and reflecting sunlight in beautiful patterns. In the cities below, millions of humans gathered to watch the ceremonies, marking the 2nd anniversary of their integration into the Harmony Collective. High Counselor Thexara stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking down at the blue and green world with satisfaction. Earth had become a model of successful integration. The humans had adapted to collective life faster than most species, and their neural conditioning was proceeding smoothly. "Counselor," said his aide, a young Vellani named Velnash, "the ceremony is ready to begin. Ambassador Park and his delegation are prepared to give their speech." Thexara nodded. In the 2 years since first contact, Ambassador Hyun-woo Park had become a valuable symbol of human cooperation. The man genuinely believed in the benefits of collective membership now, thanks to careful neural adjustment. His speeches about human gratitude were always moving and convincing. "Excellent. Begin the broadcast. Let all species see how well humanity has flourished under our guidance." Far below, in one of Earth's integration centers, Hyun-woo stood before cameras that would carry his words across the galaxy. His eyes were bright and peaceful, his voice filled with conviction, as he spoke about the wonderful life humans now enjoyed under Vellani protection. "My fellow humans," he said, "today we celebrate not conquest, but liberation. Liberation from the chaos of unguided existence. Liberation from the suffering that comes from making wrong choices. The Vellani have given us the greatest gift possible, the gift of purpose." Millions of humans watched and nodded approvingly. The neural conditioning broadcasts that played constantly in their cities had convinced most of them that this was true. They felt happy, content, and grateful to their alien benefactors, but some humans felt differently. In the ruins of New York's underground subway system, resistance fighter Ji-hwan Nam crouched beside his communication equipment, listening to coded messages from space. The hidden human fleet was moving into position, and soon the celebration would become something very different. "All units, this is Admiral Ryu," came the whispered transmission. "Operation Liberation is go. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species that's lost its freedom to Vellani guidance." Above Earth's atmosphere, space rippled as stealth fields deactivated. One by one, human warships became visible around the Vellani fleet. But they weren't the graceful crystal vessels the aliens were used to. These were ugly, brutal machines built for one purpose: war. The centerpiece of the human fleet was the Indomitable, a massive battleship that dwarfed even the largest Vellani vessels. Its hull was covered in weapon ports and armor plating. It looked exactly like what it was: a ship designed to destroy other ships. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Mi-young Jang watched the Vellani fleet with cold satisfaction. "Admiral Ryu, all ships report ready for combat. The Vellani haven't even detected us yet. Their sensors are looking for energy signatures they recognize," Admiral Seok-jin Ryu replied from his command chair. "Our primitive technology is invisible. To their advanced systems, signal all ships, commence the attack." The first the Vellani knew of humanity's return was when the Indomitable's main railgun fired. The magnetic cannon hurled a 1,000-kilogram tungsten rod at a significant fraction of light speed. It punched through 3 Vellani ships before its energy was finally absorbed. Chaos erupted in the Vellani fleet. Alarms sounded on every ship as commanders tried to understand what was happening. Their sensors showed massive kinetic impacts, but they couldn't locate the source of the attacks. "Counselor!" Velnash shouted on Thexara's flagship. "We're under attack. Unknown vessels are firing on the fleet." "That's impossible," Thexara replied calmly. "There are no military forces in this system except our own. Sir, 17 ships have been destroyed in the last 30 seconds. More railgun rounds tore through the Volani formation. The aliens' energy shields designed to deflect beam weapons were useless against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Human weapons punched through them like they weren't there. "Activate defense protocols," Thexara ordered. "Deploy all fighters. Begin random evasive maneuvers." But the Volani had never fought a real space battle before. Their pilots were trained for patrols and escorts, not combat against a determined enemy. When human fighters screamed out of the darkness, the alien pilots panicked. Pilot Dong Huan co-led his squadron of human fighters in a devastating attack run against a Volani cruiser. Unlike the elegant energy weapons favored by the aliens, human fighters carried fusion missiles and kinetic penetrators. "Fox 2! Fox 2! Dong Huan called as his missiles streaked toward their target. The Volani ship's point defense systems tried to intercept them, but the human weapons were designed to be unpredictable. They changed course randomly, accelerated erratically, and struck from unexpected angles. The cruiser died in a ball of nuclear fire. "This is impossible," Thexara said, watching his fleet being systematically destroyed. "No primitive species has ever mounted this kind of resistance." On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Ryu opened a communication channel to the Volani flagship. "High Counselor Thexara, this is Admiral Seok Jin Ryu of the Terran Defense Fleet. You will surrender immediately and release all human prisoners." Thexara's image appeared on the main screen, his usually calm expression showing the first signs of fear. "Admiral, there has been some misunderstanding. We are not your enemies. We are your friends, your guides to a better future." "You invaded our world," Ryu replied coldly. "You enslaved our people. You destroyed our freedom. That makes you our enemies. We liberated you from chaos and suffering. Look at your people. They are happy, healthy, prosperous. They are slaves who have been brainwashed into thinking they're free. That ends today." Thexara tried a different approach. "Admiral, be reasonable. You cannot hope to defeat the entire collective. Even if you destroy this fleet, we have thousands of ships throughout the galaxy. Surrender now, and we will treat you with mercy." Ryu's smile was not pleasant. "Counselor, you're thinking like a civilized being. That's your mistake. We're not civilized. We're barbarians who learned to build starships. The human attack was everything the Volani weren't prepared for. Instead of clean energy weapons that could be defended against, the humans used crude, kinetic weapons that simply smashed through anything in their way. Instead of orderly battle lines, human ships attacked from all directions at once, ignoring formation discipline. "They fight like animals," one Volani commander reported in panic. "No honor, no rules, no mercy." "Exactly," muttered Commander Woo Jin Park as he led a boarding party against a disabled Volani ship. The human soldiers moved through the alien vessel with brutal efficiency, stunning crew members with neural disruptors reverse-engineered from Volani technology. The fighting was one-sided. The Volani had become so accustomed to peaceful solutions that they had forgotten how to wage war. Their ships were beautiful but fragile. Their crews were well-educated but untrained for combat. Their weapons were precise but inadequate against human armor. Within 2 hours, the once mighty Volani fleet had been reduced to drifting wreckage and surrendering vessels. "All Volani ships, this is the Indomitable," Captain Mi Young announced. "You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally, or we will resume firing." On his flagship, Thexara stared at the tactical display showing the destruction of his fleet. In his 300-year life, he had never seen such violence, such chaos, such brutal efficiency. "Counselor," Velnash said quietly, "should we surrender?" Thexara's mind was reeling. Everything he believed about the universe had been proven wrong in the span of 2 hours. Primitive species weren't supposed to be able to resist collective integration. They weren't supposed to have the technology or organization to mount this kind of attack. How? he asked aloud. How did they hide this fleet? How did they develop these weapons? Admiral Ryu's voice came through the communication system. We hid in the dark places you never bothered to look. We built our ships in secret while you were busy congratulating yourselves on our peaceful surrender. And we developed our weapons, the same way humans have always developed weapons, by figuring out the most efficient way to kill our enemies. Below on Earth, the human resistance cells were emerging from hiding as news of the space battle spread. In the integration centers, the neural conditioning broadcasts had been cut off, and humans were beginning to remember what they had lost. Citizens of Earth, Admiral Ryu's voice echoed through the planet's communication systems. This is your liberation fleet. The Volani occupation is over. You are free. Not all humans immediately understood what this meant. 2 years of neural conditioning had convinced many of them that they were happy under Volani rule. But as the conditioning broadcasts stopped and their minds cleared, anger began to replace artificial contentment. On Thexara's flagship, the High Counselor finally answered the human ultimatum. We surrender, he said, his musical voice now, flat and defeated. Smart choice, Ryu replied. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. As human soldiers secured the Volani flagship, Thexara found himself face to face. 6 months after the liberation of Earth, the galaxy was in chaos. The defeat of the Volani fleet had triggered rebellions across 47 star systems. Species that had been peaceful members of the Harmony Collective for centuries suddenly remembered what it felt like to be free. Admiral Seokjin Ryu stood in the council chambers of the former Volani capital ship, now converted into headquarters for the Galactic Liberation Council. Through the crystal walls, he could see Earth floating, peacefully below, its blue oceans and white clouds a reminder of what they were fighting to protect. Admiral, said Captain Mi-Young Jang as she entered the chamber, we've received surrender requests from 12 more Volani outposts. The Empire is collapsing faster than we can process the liberation requests. Seok-Jin nodded grimly. Victory had brought its own problems. Many species had been under Volani control for so long that they no longer knew how to govern themselves. Sudden freedom was sometimes as destructive as the original conquest had been. What's the status of the rehabilitation programs? Dr. Sang-mi reports good progress, Mi-Young replied. The neural conditioning can be reversed, but it takes time. Some humans who were under Volani control for the full 2 years may never completely recover their original personalities. At a nearby workstation, Jimin Lee was coordinating scientific efforts across dozens of liberated worlds. The woman who had first discovered the truth about Volani technology now led teams of researchers working to undo centuries of mental conditioning. The Cathani are responding well to treatment, she reported. They were only under Volani control for 50 years, so the damage isn't permanent. But the Veltar... She shook her head sadly. 2 centuries of conditioning has left them almost incapable of independent thought. We'll help them learn again, said a new voice from the chamber entrance. Ambassador Hyunwoo Park entered, walking slowly but steadily. His rescue from the Volani homeworld had been one of the first priorities after Earth's liberation, but the neural conditioning had left its mark on him. Hyunwoo, Seok-Jin said warmly. How are you feeling today? Better, Hyunwoo replied, though his eyes still held a distant quality. The memories are coming back more clearly. I remember being angry about the deception, but I also remember genuinely believing that the Volani way was better for humanity. The conditioning was designed to make you believe that, Dr. Sang-mi-oh explained as she joined the group. The neural suppressants didn't just control your actions, they altered your fundamental values and beliefs. Recovery is possible, but it's not easy. Through the chamber's communication system came the voice of Commander Woo-Jin Park from the Retribution. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Volani Council of Remnants. They're requesting a meeting. Put them through, Seok-Jin ordered. The holographic display activated, showing a group of Volani who looked very different from the confident rulers who had once controlled the galaxy. Their leader was a young female named Shimira, one of the few Volani who had opposed the Empire's methods even before its fall. Admiral Ryu, Shimira said, her musical voice carrying notes of sadness. I speak for those Volani who wish to make amends for the crimes of our empire. We want to help rebuild what we destroyed. What are you proposing? Seokjin asked carefully. Our people have skills in healing, in technology, in understanding the mind. We offer these freely to help undo the damage our ancestors caused, but we ask for one thing in return, which is, help us learn how to live as equals instead of rulers. For 3,000 years, we have known only how to guide and control others. We don't know how to simply exist alongside other species. It was Sora Yun who answered, the anthropologist having become one of the key architects of the new galactic order. That's something all of us are going to have to learn together. The months that followed were difficult but hopeful. The Galactic Liberation Council established new principles for interaction between species, principles based on equality, mutual respect, and the absolute right of self-determination. Not every liberation was successful. Some species had been under Volani control for so long that freedom terrified them. They begged to be guided again, to have their decisions made for them. A few worlds descended into civil war as different factions argued about what kind of government they wanted. It's heartbreaking, Yoon Ji-han reported from her medical station on the relief ship New Hope. Some of these people literally don't know how to make choices anymore. They were bred for compliance, conditioned for obedience. Freedom feels like chaos to them. Then we helped them learn, Hyun-woo said firmly. His recovery had progressed to the point where he could lead diplomatic missions again, though he would never be quite the same person he had been before Volani conditioning. We give them time, support, and patience. No one said freedom was easy. The human approach to liberation was very different from the Volani approach to conquest. Instead of imposing a single solution on every world, they worked with each species to find systems of government that fit their unique needs and cultures. Young-Soo Choi, now heading the Galactic Communication Network, established translation, protocols that preserved the distinctiveness of each species' language, rather than forcing everyone to adopt a common tongue. Diversity makes us stronger, he said. The Volani mistake was thinking that unity required uniformity. Captain Mi-young Jang had been promoted to admiral and now commanded the combined Free Species Fleet. Unlike the old Volani Navy, which existed to enforce compliance, the new fleet's mission was to protect freedom and prevent any species from dominating others. We're not trying to build an empire, she explained to a gathering of planetary representatives. We're trying to prevent empires from forming. The moment any species starts imposing its will on others, we intervene. The transformation wasn't always peaceful. Some Volani hardliners refused to accept the end of their empire and formed terrorist cells dedicated to restoring the old order. A few aggressive species tried to take advantage of the chaos to conquer their neighbors. Pilot Donghwan Ko, now a squadron leader in the Liberation Fleet, found himself fighting against former Volani loyalists in the Epsilon Eridani system. It's strange, he reported after a successful mission. We're fighting to give people the right to make their own mistakes. That's exactly what we're fighting for, Admiral Ryu replied. The right to succeed or fail on our own terms. The most difficult case was the Volani homeworld itself. High Counselor Thexara and other former leaders were put on trial for crimes against sentience, but the proceedings were complicated by the fact that they genuinely believed they had been helping their victims. I still don't understand, Thexara said during his testimony. We brought peace, prosperity, and purpose to billions of beings. How is that a crime? Hyun-woo, serving as chief prosecutor despite his own victimization, tried to explain. Because you took away their right to choose. You decided what was best for them without asking them. You treated entire species like children who couldn't be trusted to make their own decisions. But look at the chaos that followed liberation, Thexara protested. Wars, conflicts, suffering that we could have prevented. Yes, Hyun-woo agreed. But it's their chaos, their conflicts, their suffering, and also their joy, their triumphs, their growth. You can't have one without the other. The trial lasted for months, broadcast across the galaxy as different species struggled to understand concepts of justice, freedom, and responsibility. In the end, Thexara and his co-defendants were sentenced not to imprisonment, but to service, helping to rebuild the worlds their empire had damaged. Perhaps, the court ruled, the best way for them to understand the value of freedom is to work alongside those they once controlled. As the first year of liberation drew to a close, representatives from dozens of species gathered on Earth for the founding of the Free Worlds Coalition. Unlike the Harmony Collective, membership was voluntary and could be revoked at any time. The Coalition's charter was simple: protect freedom, prevent oppression, and help all species grow and develop according to their own nature. Hyun-woo stood before the assembly, his voice carrying both the wisdom of experience and the pain of hard-won knowledge. A year ago, I believed that peace was the highest goal any civilization could achieve. I was wrong. Freedom is higher than peace. Dignity is more important than safety. The right to choose badly is more precious than the security of having all. Choices made for you. He paused, looking out at the diverse crowd of beings, some still recovering from centuries of conditioning, others newly free and uncertain about their future. The Villani offered us paradise, he continued. A galaxy without war, without want, without suffering. All we had to do was surrender our right to decide our own fate. Today we choose differently. We choose uncertainty over security. We choose the right to make mistakes over the comfort of having them prevented. We choose freedom. The vote was unanimous. Later that evening, as celebrations continued around the world, Hyun-woo walked through a memorial garden that had been planted in Seoul. Each tree represented a human who had died resisting Villani occupation, and each flower commemorated one who had struggled to recover from neural conditioning. Yoon Han found him there, sitting on a bench beneath the stars. "How are you feeling?" she asked.